Welcome to Alabama Manufacturing Now, hosted by Alabama Technology Network, a podcast where we cover a wide array of challenges, solutions, and innovations for manufacturers. We're your host, Whitney Barlow, Supplier Development Manager. And I'm Paige Caulfield, Marketing and PR Manager.
Welcome back to Alabama Manufacturing Now. We are here with Barbie Peek. Thank you for being with us today. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your role with the Port of Huntsville and how long you've been there?
Well, first, good morning, and it's so great to be with y'all. And I hate that I'm not there sitting with you in person. So we're going to have to make up another reason for me to get back and get on your podcast and do it live. So
Absolutely.
Appreciate your accommodations. But I'm the Chief Business Development Officer for the Port of Huntsville. And I have been with our organization for 36 years. This entire complex really started and launched in 1967. So I've really been here through some of the most dynamic times and growth, not just with the Port of Huntsville, but the entire city of Huntsville and what's happened in and around North Alabama. I am the revenue officer per se of this organization. My job is revenue. So, and that's what I'm doing is, I'm trying to increase opportunities for our organization so that we can grow and provide services and serve the businesses and industry of the entire region.
Great. So how did the Port of Huntsville come to be and what does it currently offer?
The interesting thing is, as I mentioned about, 1967 is when the complex opened, and you had a lot of great leaders that, had a lot of forethought in putting our complex in its current location, which is right along 565. Mm-hmm. We used to the airport was right in the middle of cotton fields, downtown Huntsville, really about 15 miles by car away from downtown. So when we bought the land in 1964 with the whole idea of this being a logistics transportation center, we bought 3,000 acres in a day to open up this complex. And so the intermodal facility, which we can talk about a little bit more later, was an original thought in 1967 when our doors opened. So a lot of people were questioning, what are you doing moving 15 miles outside of town? But what a great decision and great leadership and forethought that was put into this complex. So now here we sit on 7,400 acres.
Wow.
And growing, and we do still have some targeted land that we're looking to expand to. But again, it's been a very planned out, methodical, strategic placement of what we've been trying to do. So you open up in 1967 with the airport and, the traditional passenger operation. And then, what comes along with that is, eventually you get some domestic air cargo type services. And then we started building air cargo bays. Then we opened up the intermodal facility, which is our rail, air, and highway cargo complex. And that center opened in 1986. And really on the east side of the complex, that's where we've really had a lot of growth in the sense of facilities, operations. And so the east side of the complex is the cargo operation of our complex. And then, we have opportunities to grow. And with that master planning that we've done with the 7,400 acres, we're looking at on the west side of the complex, and we've got a lot of vacant land there. That would ultimately be for some type of aviation growth. So it's been very strategic in trying to lay it all out and then make sure that what we're doing today works for 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. And it has worked so far. And so that's how we are trying to be very strategic in this growth and then building the amenities and services. So, interesting enough that when you look at what we are, we were formed by an act of legislation by the state of Alabama. We're an airport authority. It's kind of funny when you go to a rail cargo conference and you would use your name, Huntsville-Madison County Airport Authority, and you confuse people. They're like, what does that have to do with rail? But that's why we use Port of Huntsville, because that's really all encompassing. We're an inland port. And so we have the capabilities of moving, international rail cargo, air cargo, and people. So really business and industry look to us to move people and products. And so, we invest our money in the infrastructure, kind of the heart of your operation. So we're really into let's build runways, let's build ramps, let's build cargo buildings, let's build the intermodal facility. And so we're here to provide those services and the infrastructure for business and industry. Um, you look at us, I mean, we're a commodity and like a utility for your community. And so, because each individual business in your community can't go build a rail cargo or they can't build a ramp to land a plane at their complex. A lot of them would like to have all that, but, it's just not economically feasible. So we as a community reach out and that's what we do. We tap our businesses and industry and we say, what do you need? How can we work together? And, that's why, we're doing projects like we're doing today. You expand your runways, we're overlaying those. We're adding services and facilities in the airport, upgrading concessions and adding things that make it easier for passengers. And over on the rail cargo side, we're upgrading our cranes and equipment. And then we're also methodical when we're doing, like, on the air cargo side, you've got ramps that are very focused on heavy planes. So with the infrastructure we have today, we can land the largest planes in the world and load and unload them. So, but that was part of our strategic planning, is we've got to make sure that we can park these planes, because we do have an international air cargo operation today that's operated by DSV. So, again, you go back sometimes when people say chicken and the egg about what you're doing. It is expensive to build things and hope they come, but you got to be strategic in where you make your investments.
Well, speaking of strategy and investments with economic development, that's one of the key things. So with some of the economic growth that we've had in the North Alabama area, how has the Port of Huntsville played a role in that?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to we're helping business and industry move their people and their products. So if you're looking at, kind of the traditional airport side and what we do is we work to try to attract more nonstop destinations, new airlines, create competition, and give people choices and access to the global marketplace. And the same thing that happens on the cargo side of the world. And excuse me, I just totally didn't even bring into the whole conversation yet. It was about our industrial park that's in and around, and that's about 4,000 acres of our 7,400 acres.
Wow.
That's targeted directly at industrial development. So we're just one big economic development pie here, and we just have to keep slicing it different ways to do things. So interesting enough, when you talk about investments and the impact that we have, this complex has over $2 billion of capital investments.
Wow.
And 70% of that comes from private investment. So when we look at the amount of money that we put in, from whether we get a federal grant or any kind of grants to go into the facilities, if 70% of $2 billion is being stimulated by for $2 billion into your community, I would think that's a really good return on investment when these dollars are invested in our facilities and operations. So I think we've done well. And that $2 billion actual dollars, it's not adjusted for any type of inflation. So, you have a capital investment type of impact on the community. You have jobs that we're helping impact. We have a direct impact of about 6,000 jobs because of this complex and what we're doing. And that's a payroll of close to $300 million annually. So you can see the importance of what we're doing. Again, providing that transportation utility service, as well as providing jobs into the community.
They're almost just like the movie Field of Dreams. They went out to a field and built it, and it all came.
They built it.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It is a little scary sometimes when you think about that, because if you look around at some of the things, I mean, when we, Most of your rail ramps are owned by the railroad, but we own the intermodal facility rail ramp, and those are Port of Huntsville employees.
Oh,
So they're not
wow.
Norfolk Southern employees; they're our employees. So we're very, I know we can talk a little bit more about workforce development, but we'll talk a little bit about all the different jobs and skill sets that we need to run this complex.
That's amazing. That's a fantastic thing because I don't think a lot of people understand on the rail how much that normally is all managed by the rail. So that's a
Right,
unique
right,
thing that makes y'all a little
right.
bit above.
Right.
And that's again goes back to what was the need back in the early 80s, and we went out and we put about $70 million of investment just into the rail cargo side. And so again, and it keeps growing, and then we're in a really good growth mode right now on the rail cargo side. But again, it's putting things in place. And if you look on the air cargo side, we've done some similar partnerships with the DSV, and that's building things like coolers and taking a chance. And we go and build a 5,250 square foot cooler, trying to see if they could attract cargo that needs pharmaceuticals, things like that need that temperature controlled environment. So we built a 5,250 square foot. Now we're at about 38,000 square foot of temperature controlled space. So it's taking that chance, putting the things out there. And then you plant a seed and it continues to grow. And we try to focus on the things that we're good at. We try not to get too far out of our lane, but yet I think through the years we have been innovative and creative. And sometimes when you're a little smaller, you have to be a little creative and innovative. And that's really what attracted DSV. DSV has had their international air cargo operation here since 1991.
Wow.
So, really, excuse me, 1990, September of 1990 was the first landing of a 747 here. So here we are,
Wow.
35 years later, and their operation is
Yeah.
still blowing and going.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So how does the Port of Huntsville ensure speed and efficiency in moving goods?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to understanding our customer needs, and then we have to put the infrastructure in place along with processes and procedures. So we can talk a little bit, on what do we invest on, for the airports. So we make sure that we have the facilities so that the airlines can park and land, and jet bridges, and making sure that TSA and all those little things that are important to getting you on a plane are in place and are accessible, whether it's accessible by our service providers here at the airport or accessible by the passengers. And then on the intermodal facility, we're investing in automation and technology and things that ensure tracking the products and making sure that they're efficient. We really have an outstanding reputation when it comes to customer service, because you're a little bit smaller and you have the ability to really get personal with your customers. So we really understand their procedures, and we can try to personalize some things for them. It's not unusual. We're open from 6 to 6, and when we have a customer that says, "I'm on my way, I can't make it by 6," what do? We stay over. We stay on over. We keep that gate over, because then that container can get in here and we can get it logged, and then it can get out on the train and make the train it was trying to make. So it's investing in the things that help supply chains efficient and effective. And that's kind of the thing that we motto ourselves, and we're efficient, effective, and economical. And it's a nicer way of saying cheaper, better, faster.
I love it.
And,
Oh, it's the fancy words, right?
Yeah.
That's your
E3,
job as a development
E3.
officer. Yes.
Yeah.
So do you have any exciting things that you've got coming down the pipeline on infrastructure that can really that you can share with us?
Well, I mean, naturally, we're always kind of looking at that next thing. And, some of the things that we're looking at and exploring, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with the SEEDS program
Mm-hmm.
that the Department of Commerce did. We were one of the first recipients in that first round of SEEDS, and we received a grant to do some site development on the western side of the complex. And that's where we're kind of targeting some of our new cargo type operations. We also, in the mix of all of our real cargo, air cargo passengers, we do have several MRO companies, and that's maintenance, repair, overhaul companies.
Okay.
Redstone Arsenal is home to Aviation Command. So there's a huge presence of companies that do work on helicopters and fixed wings and so we do, we just opened up a new 111,000 square foot facility, and SES, who was already our tenant, and they're a huge MRO operation, and they're a big player in the game with the Army, and so they just took on. So they're our largest tenant now. So we just cut the ribbon on that. In first quarter of this year, so that's a huge addition to our inventory of facilities. And then, as I was mentioning, so we have one lot left on the air cargo side, and so we're having to think about the next best thing, and that's what we've got the SEEDS grant on the western side. So we're doing a little bit of studying right now, and then we'll be able to take that SEEDS money and start with some initial site development that we could develop up to about 400,000 square feet of new hangar space. And again, it can be multi-use. It could be an airline coming in and having a maintenance facility. It could be, a cargo sorting center. It could be MRO. So, with that particular site, it's greenfield. So we will have to add some additional connectors to the taxiway and some ramp over there. So that's kind of ongoing. That's really one of the next future steps. We just did a big $11 million renovation to our fixed base operation, which is managed by Signature Aviation. And a lot of people forget sometimes about your general aviation operation, because for a lot of times with big corporations and CEOs and leadership and the government, they're coming in through your general aviation facilities, and that's the front door to your community. So that was a joint partnership with Signature Aviation. We cut the ribbon on that this spring as well. So it's
Wonderful.
beautiful, and it really gives that impression of this community and what it means, and really the history of exploration and space. So y'all got to come and see it. It
Yeah,
really
Yeah,
that's
turned
what I'm
out
sitting here
beautiful.
thinking. We
Great.
got to do
Yeah.
a port tour.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'd love to
absolutely.
come.
So those are the things, and we're always kind of in that strategic planning. We're always looking at where are we going next. We know we have a lot of land. I mean, even if you look at our strategic plan today, and you go straight down County Line Road, which is on the east side of the complex, it runs actually parallel with our runways. We have the ability that we can add up to almost 1 million square feet of space on along
That is
that. Now
so
we haven't
impressive.
delved into that yet, but again, it's planning, it's thinking ahead. What's the next best thing?
Y'all have got a history of that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So is the port facing any workforce challenges, and how are you partnering with education or training providers to address them?
I would say that we're in a really good place right now. We have a diverse skill set needs, as we kind of alluded to when we were talking about, because if you think about the whole complex and the things that we're responsible for, from your traditional admin type positions like myself and accountants and IT and operations specialists. We also have our own public safety department, and so those are public safety officers are cross-trained. They're firemen and policemen.
Oh,
So that's a
cool.
unique, operation that we have. And then you go into, you've got to have your maintenance facilities type positions. Some people are electrical, some people are air conditioning. So we have all kinds of people And then you look over to the intermodal facility. We have cargo operators, and they're all cross trained, so they do multiple things on the yard. They drive the crane, which you got to come and see the crane, because it's like playing a video game, because
That's
they're on the
amazing.
ground, they got their controls, and it's like everybody's dream come true. And so we internally, we do a lot of training. We provide educational opportunities, whether it be you want a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or you're going to expand. And we even have internal operations where you can grow. If you're a technician for us, you have an opportunity to become a tech 1, 2, 3. So that means that we're investing in you and education. We do work with our educational institutes. We're out and about at trade shows and job fairs, and trying to let people know the skill sets. We have a really good intern program. Just this summer, we have an intern in our marketing department. We have a 2 interns in our operations department. We have an internship. I think the young intern at our intermodal facility is getting a degree in supply chain management, and then some of the others that are open working in operations are getting aviation management degrees. So we try to work with the colleges that, and try to find young talent like everybody else. And, so we've got to stay connected. Interesting enough, Calhoun Community Colleges opened up a new A&P program, which is training, people to work on airplanes, which is a very desired skill set in and around this community. So Calhoun launched a new program. So we're trying to help, get the word out and help promote that with them. Anybody that's kind of trying to do programming like that, we'll try to partner and help, the community at large. And, because naturally we're going to need a new workforce, down the road.
Yeah.
So it's all important. We got to all jump in together and on that.
That's amazing. It's like y'all are your own little city right there. It's just
Yeah,
absolutely
I mean,
amazing.
occasionally, yeah, it is. And so,
I love how
and
self-sufficient y'all are.
well, I have to boast a little bit. We just were named the best small airport for the second year in the row by Newsweek magazine. It was a readers survey, and we were voted again across the nation. And so it's not just us, it's also the people that work in and around us. It's our partners. I mean, the fortunate thing that we know all the managers of all of our service providers, whether it's the airlines, whether it's the cargo people. I mean, we have personal relationships with the truckers that provide, services here. So, it takes a village. And when we have good relationships and we're communicating about, what are our objectives? What are we trying to do, in this community? And I think that bode well, and it shows, I mean, next week we're going to celebrate. We're going to have all the food trucks out, and we're inviting all the people here at the airport to come and have food and celebrate them helping us become the #1 small airport. So I think that's our
so much
approach.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to pat the backs of the people that are really, carrying the load and making this a great operation.
I love that you talk about relationships, because that is one thing that we try really hard at ATN. One reason why we launched this podcast was to show relationships with all the different parts of the state that feed into each other to make our state so great. And with technology coming on the cusp, sometimes that tends to take away from the in-person relationship. So tell us kind of how y'all are implementing all things technology. So from AI to just basic innovation, and how that's really impacting what I'm now going to call the Port of Huntsville city. No, I mean, it's just amazing to me. I love listening to you talk about it. Transportation is just intriguing, and that y'all are using it in all sectors. But how is all that working now with technology and relationships, et cetera?
Well, technology is never going to be able to replace relationships. And so I think, communication is always the root of the problem or the best part of a solution. And so we're going to invest again into the technology and the things that help us, not have to do things manually, and but we're not going to become, stagnant with technology and shoot things out, or, okay, here's your, we're just going to send you this on a monthly basis. I mean, we just talked about some communication with steamship lines. That's another customer of ours, and we've got something new coming on. We're gonna take the time and make personal contact with them, and let them know. But it is important. I mean, we just talked about what's the future. We've got all kinds of trucks and equipment that drives in and around on our ramps. When do we move to cars and trucks that are not driven by our employees, and they run and grab containers? Or what are we going to do one day when that you're down at the bag claim and here comes the trolley that's not driven by an employee? Those are efficient things, and then that means that you can do more. I never like to say we're going to try to do more with less. I say we're going to try to do more with better quality. And so, that's where technology to me is going to be the most important, is how does it take us to that next level and ensure quality? And so that's where we're going to invest in. AI, we haven't invested so much in that. We're looking more at, things like the some sustainability things with new equipment, and we're always going to look for the latest technology things. I mean, you watch the airlines, they bounce back and forth, come to the airport, check in online, just walk straight to the gate. But at the end of the day, you still got to stop and check in at TSA. You still got to show that ticket, when you get on the plane.
Yes,
No
you do.
different. And you're over, on the intermodal side of the house, you still got to check in. But we hope, we're working in partnership like with Norfolk Southern. And, we kind of work within their framework of their systems. So we're always trying to say, how can we improve our technology along with you? Because we have to be able to talk to each other technology wise. So that's ironically, just before this call, we had a good meeting and talking about technology and how do we track things better, and how are we more efficient together? So that's really going to be a place that we make investments on. When that trick, I laughed and told the guy, I said, we all need to live in a world of QR codes, in the sense of, I want that QR code when that container comes in and we're just going zip, 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 zip. And we're never having to enter anything manually. So there's never any, human error and those kinds of things. So I think that's, again, where we're going to invest. And that's what we're looking at, is automation of our operations to increase the quality, and not to replace people, but to just, that way we can take our good skill sets and do other things better.
I love that.
Yeah.
Increased quality. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to give you credit, Barbie. I'm going to be like, and my friend Barbie Peek said, we're going to use technology to increase quality. I love that, because people think it's taking away workforce, but it's really not.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, no, it's just like, just go to any advanced manufacturing facility today. And, I wish more people could see how pristine and beautiful and efficient they are. And there's still plenty of people working. There's still plenty of jobs. I mean, you go to Mazda, Toyota, and look at, a facility has 5,000 jobs, and you still have automation. I mean, one, you're taking away, making sure that your employees have a great environment to work in, and a safe environment, and it's efficient for them too. So, like I said, I don't think we should ever be scared of technology or improvements, because it's just really enhancing what we're trying to do.
It is. It's amazing. Well, she talked about sustainability. You and I were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
Didn't you? We were talking about how it impacts. What was the question? So we were on something not long ago, Barbie, where we were talking about sustainability and transportation and its impact on the environment itself. And, that's such a...
Right.
We teach generations in one of our classes at LMD, and the younger generations are very focused on environment and sustainability, and I mean, we all should be. Their focus tends to be a little bit more intense sometimes. Yeah. So, but what are some of the things that Paige and I were talking about what does the sustainability look like for y'all?
Well, it's a great conversation because everybody's involved in sustainability conversations. I don't care what industry you're in, because if you can find some good sustainability practices, then we're all better off for it. Our environment's better off for it. But from reaching some certain levels of sustainability also is sacrifices, that people have to make. But I think people are looking at, how do we use sustainable fuels? How do you use, more sustainable equipment, whether it's cars or trucks or tractors or, those kinds of things. Those things cost more money, to buy sustainable fuels. So those are kind of things that if you're managing a business, you've got to look at, so it's going to cost me 30% more to buy sustainable fuels. Then how do I recoup that 30%? Is it something that could be passed along to customers? I mean, that's just a reality of, what people are really trying and struggling with when it comes to meeting some of these goals and things. So, like from the airlines, they're really looking at fuel, air cargo's looking at fuel, everybody's looking at those kinds of things. And so it has to be in your conversation and for your leadership, no matter what organization you're in. Yeah. Because, ultimately we all want all those things. And how do we get there? And it is an economic investment. And so, sometimes you only have so many dollars with your economic investments and you have to balance it. So I think that's what challenges all communities, companies, businesses, no matter where you are. How do we get there? And, I think, sometimes everybody wants to fast track it and you can't always fast track it. And we're like everybody else. Where can we make some changes and make it impactful? Yeah. And, that, like I said, that's where you look at fuel, equipment. Those are good places to start.
Yeah. So how do you balance growth with environmental responsibility?
We work on the things that we control. And again, we go back to, we look at things like we changed the lights out in the parking deck. And we saved energy, saved on our power bill. And we had our return on our investment came back quicker than we planned. When we're doing new buildings, we look at all of those things. We're doing a refresh. That's what our marketing team's calling our program on the airport side.
I like that
because we're refreshing, and you're going to have a new look, but we're not. It's like if you like that show on HTV, we're doing some no reno demo. Excuse me. It's was it no demo reno? Excuse me.
No demo.
Because we're not tearing down walls, per se. We are building new concessions. But we're refreshing, new flooring, new seating, new wallpapers and some paints and things like that. But we're also doing some things like new windows all through the concourse that are more environmental friendly. And, it stops, it's going to be more efficient with our power bill and use of power. So that's some of the ways that we are trying to conquer. We're growing, and it's got to be at the forefront of everything.
Yeah.
So on the concessions, I just have to ask, are y'all getting a Cinnabon? Do y'all have cinnamon rolls? It is like I will leave one concourse to another, Barbie, to get a Cinnabon. What is wrong with me?
Our big new thing we're getting is Starbucks. So,
well, that's just
there will
good.
Be Starbucks. It won't be as good as Cinnabon.
No, but Starbucks is pretty good.
Everybody's excited about our Starbucks. We're having a Starbucks will have a new interstellar pizza, and then we're gutting our whole restaurant area and really upgauging it quite a bit. And then even all our concessions. So we have one vendor that got the contract, and they're doing concessions and retail. So all of our retail space is getting a facelift. So like I said, now we're moving walls for some of that, but even, bathrooms and things like that. We even look at bathrooms and what kind of you don't think about this, but okay, do I buy a sink where you can leave the water on accidentally, or we gotta everything's everything's automated in your bathrooms.
Gotta have a bidet.
So that's part of your sustainability program and things like that. And, you go, what do I really think about that? Yes, we do.
Yes,
we do.
and you can tell
your toilet seat is warmed.
You can tell the airports that take time on those kind of things, because when you're traveling, it's the simple things that are really the comfort, because it's already just such a hectic experience.
Yeah,
I'll just call it
we
that.
Have a program called the Airport Cooperative Program. It's something that through the FAA they funded this group, and then they created kind of subgroups, and they take topics and they go in and they do a really cross section of businesses for a topic. And then what your outcome is okay, now I've kind of created a template, a prototype or something for airports. So I laugh a little bit because I served on one of these airport cooperative program, and I was part of the team that created the template for bathrooms. So that's why I'm a semi-bathroom expert. So what we did is it was a combination of airport people who dealt with customer service things, we people who are engineers, we brought on interior decorators, and we created a how-to book on, if you are an airport, you could take this template and look through it. And we talked about customer service aspects, we talked about products, we talked about all those things. And it's so helpful because sometimes if you're a really small operation, you don't have the money to go pay $100,000 to create, a program. And so here we did. And so there's a myriad of other topics it's really kind of like your own library of airports. And you can go and say, this airport has built a ramp. I'm going to go read this airport cooperative program book, and it's going to give me the how-to, what-tos, and help me. So
I love that.
That's why I only tell y'all that out of fun, since we're talking about bathrooms.
Yeah, but that's a fantastic thing, is to have those. And when we do some of our training, some of our staff does that, where they leave behind how-tos when they come back for their audit, like checking off. And like, you don't understand the value of those until you're doing a no demo reno and
it's just, what a great resource.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And we're helping each other. I'm helping you not make a mistake, or helping you save money, or whatever it may be. I mean, we got down in the weeds, with it. And I mean, we told you what kind of products to put on your counters. We even talked about, don't use this kind of product because then you can't clean it. Or, when we're in construction projects, our operations team is always talking about, is that when we add that, build that, do that, how does it impact our custodial department? We get their feedback and talk about how to clean. I mean, you just don't think about stuff like that. But
I'm never going to look at an airport bathroom the same after this conversation.
There you go.
I'm going to be critiquing it. I'll be like, this was not one of Barbie's bathrooms.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is not
my claim to
resource.
fame.
Yeah.
I love it. So where do you see, we kind of talked about this already, but like, let's just say they told you, Barbie, you're going to write the next how to do book for the next 5 to 10 years for the Huntsville port, or the Port of Huntsville, excuse me. What would you draw that out to be?
Well, we look at a 20-year plan and a 50-year plan. So 5 to 10 years, I see more development in our industrial park. It's a very active park. We've got people like International, which is formerly Navistar. And it's still Navistar. They just changed their name back to International. So we have, the really, if you look at our industrial park, we're a light manufacturing. So we go from cyber companies to the Boeings to advanced manufacturing, really. And so it really lends itself well, and warehouse distribution in and around the airport. So it's such a great fit and a good marriage with all of those things, sitting right here. So I see more industrial park tenants. We see I see an expansion of the airport, maybe adding some more gates to the airport. I see growth on the west side of the complex, some aviation growth. We kind of talked about the different categories. So we definitely see that growing and adding to that. We see some growth in the air cargo. DSV, who is our anchor tenant with our international air cargo service, has recently purchased DB Shankers. So DSV is going to become the largest logistics company in the world.
Oh, wow.
And they have a flagship operation here in Huntsville. We've served, as the North American hub for them for many, many years. So we look and see, more great opportunities. Today they're serving the Asian market, South American market, and European market out of Huntsville. So got lots of great opportunities. And again, that's the kind of stuff that we got to kind of work in tandem with them, because we don't want to stunt their growth in any way. So, we've expanded our runways are 12,600 feet long and 10,000 feet long, which can accommodate anything. We have a 5,000 foot separation between those two runways. And so that means you can have simultaneous takeoffs and landings. So you double your productivity when you do those kinds of investments. And so, that's, some of those things have derived from, DSV going, we're going to go to Europe. And, right now on a 10,000 foot, we're going to go to Asia. And right now we can't do a fully fueled and loaded 747-400 going to Asia on a hot summer August day on 10,000, but they needed 12,000 and we got them 12,600. So now on that hot summer day, because you forget that when you're taking a big loaded cargo plane, it's really about that takeoff that you've got to have that link. So that's the kind of stuff that, so we've got some really good infrastructure in place to handle, those types of growth. We're going to have to kind of tweak it all the time to make sure that we don't stunt anybody's growth. And so, I see all those pockets having great opportunities based on, what's going on in the world today. We have a very global presence. And so we have to keep our pulse on that too, what's happening and going, and making sure that, we've got the place, we've got U.S. Customs. They sit on site here at the airport. They're such a great partner with us, and they're very cognizant of the fact that they're here to help business and commerce. So we're really fortunate. They're super partners. So we're just lucky, geographically, we sit in a really great location, in particular for air cargo, because, if you land your cargo plane and you're going to, end up trucking it, and you use this as your, Southeast distribution facility, your, 8-hour drive, you're touching the biggest large of the population of the United States, 8 hours from here. So we are a little blessed with, a great geographical location, which plays well into all the other things that we're trying to do.
That's amazing. And a Cinnabon. That's the next 5 to 10 years. And a Cinnabon. And a Cinnabon.
Yes. We'll get somebody on that. We'll work on that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to tell them I've had a request.
I've had some people call and ask about a Cinnabon.
Yeah. There's an online survey going on.
There you go.
Do you like Cinnabon?
They have gotten 6,000 signatures.
Well, it.
Barbie, thank you so much for joining us today. If somebody wanted to learn more about the Port of Huntsville, how could they do that?
Encourage you to go to our website, www.portofhuntsville.com. portofhuntsville.org. And you'll learn all the things you need to know, and you can contact our business development department, myself or Tom Lamming, if we can help you. And then we have a full communications team too that will help answer questions and provide information. So just go to that website and let us know. We'll be happy to help.
Wonderful.
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us today, and we hope you enjoy your day.